Okay, I'm Kylie Shakespeare, and this is our apartment 304 landscaping sheet. So this is our cover sheet. We have our client responsibility laid out here, just with 5 easy steps of how to go through it, and then what we need to do as the company. And then,
Yeah. So next, just generally dividing up the sheet, we have an example bill template and then an actual template. But going through the rubric, we used absolute and relative references several places. But for example, here's one here on D2, both absolute and relative references. We use named cells. Here's an example of a named cell, laborers, and we also used other formulas that use named cells, like here. Mathematical equations. This is another example of a mathematical equation using a function, subtracting another function. We're also doing that in here, multiplying a function by another cell. And for our four functions that we use, the three, and then a fourth, we're using sum, VLOOKUP, rand between, XLOOKUP, and ceiling math. That's 5, but we wanted to actually show that we know what we're doing. So VLOOKUP is here, sum is here, ceiling.math is here, XLOOKUP is right here, and what was the other one? Rand between. Rand between is how we filled in all of these square footages. On the build template, they're blank, they're for normal input, but the other functions are still there.
For our if statement, we did this one, and it's if they worked over 10 hours, then you have $25 per hour instead of 20. And for our conditional formatting, we have G6 or G9. Basically, the foliage cost is the 50th percentile of how much it costs, and so always rock will be the most money, and then soil will be the least. And then for data validation, basically the entire sheet is data validation, but we have the drop downs and a few other things as well that use data validation on the sheet.
and next we have the cost breakdown shown in a graph. Cost of labor, soil costs, foliage costs, and rock costs. If you go to the template, when you fill out a random one, it starts showing up on the graph. And then our team member sheet is right here. And this is where we laid out what we did and some of the responsibilities we had. And then Benton, do you want to start with what you learned?
Sure. So I learned mostly how to incorporate different functions into Google Sheets. Like I didn't know what ceiling.math was, but now I do. And that, along with XLOOKUP, is what I mostly learned from this project.
Me, Tyler Dixon, I learned how useful data validation can be, especially drop-down tools with rand between, that you don't need a huge data set of or a large range of data set in order to figure out a template with many different options. You can just use the data validation, and it can be shortcutted that way.
I learned that relative and absolute references do have a big difference in when you're trying to pull different numbers, and so it's important to notice which one is relative and absolute.